Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators. It is Wednesday, October 16th, and it's hump day. I hope you guys are having a fabulous one. We have got a lot to go through here tonight. Man, do I ever have a pile of clips. Most of it's going to be pretty quick stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun at Trudeau's expense today. We're probably going to have to listen to his voice a little more than a lot more than we ever do on this platform, just simply because there's so many short clips. But I think a lot of folks have been paying attention to the foreign interference inquiry that he was performing at today. You can't really call it testifying, it was performing. And man, the sound bites and sound clips that are coming out of this are unbelievable, even for the clown show in Canada. So tonight's show, clown show, cover up, we'll leave it up to everybody else to decide on that one. But I don't think anybody can actually predict how low Trudeau will go. How low do you think he'll go? Will he dig himself an even deeper hole so that he can go lower? Which is, I kind of think, the case of what's going on this week here in Canada. We're going to start off with a clown world joke, funny because that's all you can do is laugh at these meat muppets. But before we do that, a little bit of maintenance, guys. Housekeeping. Make sure you smash that thumbs up when you come on in here. If you're watching on Rumble, please hit that green thumb or hit that thumb and turn it green. If you're following on X or Facebook, the likes matter, guys. And if you can share, if you find this worth sharing, that helps even more. So, as always, we'll start with Substack. That's where all the extras, all the receipts, all the bits and pieces are at. If you guys caught the interview with Jim McMurtry last night, it was absolutely phenomenal. Talking about sore spots in Canada that really have no business. They shouldn't even exist, these problems, and our government is using them to pit us against each other, and you're using money and policy and suppression to do this. And so we had a really great discussion last night with Jim. There's some extra clips in the Substack that we didn't see last night, and that's why we do the Substack. So because it gives me time to help out or to add more to it and make sure that everything is okay. So that's where it's at. Always free, guys. You can, if you choose to. It's totally voluntary. You can subscribe for, I think it's $8 a month. So it's like 50 cents a show. If you find this work is worth 50 cents a show, that's a great place to support this platform and help everybody else, that can't afford it or, is not technically capable of doing it. There's all kinds of extra stuff on Substack. You guys will see there's a whole bunch of recommended platforms as well. Trying to help you guys sort the news from the noise. As always, everything is also available on whatsupcanada.org. This is kind of our headquarters, the real estate that I own in the digital universe, and we've learned a lot in how to keep you guys protected and our content protected. So I'm pretty confident moving forward, in spite of the insanity that Lord Farquat has cooking up for us. But yeah, you can watch the show here if all you want to do is watch, throw it on like a podcast or something like that. You can definitely do that here. No information required, no subscription required. And you can also get to our awesome partners. We don't have sponsors, they don't pay us to talk about them, but we work together and they help out a little bit in, how do we say this, profit sharing for anything that we do buy from our partners at New World Precious Metals, Tower Gardens, and over at Patriot Switch. And for me, Patriot Switch is the one I use every single day. My life would be more complex without Patriot Switch, so I love my partners over there. Their products are phenomenal. But let's get into it because, as you can see by the top of my toolbar here, holy mother trucker, do I have a lot of stuff coming on deck tonight. Some of it's going to be, it's going to be frustrating, but we've got some good news in here as well, and I've got a little bit of stuff at the end. And the one thing that I want to let you guys know is I'm going to be going through a whole bunch of the inquiry clips and some takes on that. But then I've got a US take on this particular issue in Canada, and I'm pretty sure none of y'all are going to have discovered that one. So I encourage everybody to make sure that you get that clip. It's important to understand what our neighbors to the south, in spite of all of the insanity going on down there. Um, and I'm going to, I couldn't help myself. We're going to have a 50-second look through the window of Kamala in the States, but some updates on X. This is kind of, at first I didn't give it two thoughts, but then I realized, holy mackerel, this is going to change things significantly, particularly on this platform. So they're changing how the block system works. Once you blocked somebody, they couldn't see your stuff, you couldn't see their stuff, none of that. They were like down the memory hole. Well, they're changing that. And now if I post publicly, anybody that I have blocked will be able to see my posts, but they will not be able to engage. So that's going to change things up. So what's going to happen here now is the snowflakes are going to get even more and more melted. The clone troopers are going to get more and more frustrated, and they're probably going to spend more efforts trying to go around X to attack the places and the people and the platforms that they hate. So if you start to see some unusual activity, um, maybe just kind of go take a peek through your new friends, follower requests, some of those kinds of things, the people that you may have blocked. It's going to be it's going to be a little bit interesting, I think. So of course we're going to take a 50-second, 54-second stroll through Clown World, kind of partly because it's Clown World and I thought I'd start everybody off with a laugh and a hurrah, but also partly because it gave me a chance to share a little bit of Sean Parnell. And as far as I'm concerned, America needs a whole lot more Sean Parnell. He's a friend of the platform here as well. We'll have to see if we can get him back on again after the election. There is no way that he's going to have any time beforehand. But got a post from him and a little clip from the interview, the infamous interview, and we'll play that here in just a second. But Sean says, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Biden, even as an animated corpse, is a far better candidate than Kamala Harris. He's referring to Dems will rue the day they shanked him and selected Kamala to be his successor. And that's, something that I still can't wrap my brain around, this, how she got to be the Democrat nominee without getting a single vote. She was just anointed and put up on the pedestal, and you're next. But she did an interview today, and some of you guys were talking about it in the Rumble chat here. So we're gonna have a good laugh at Kamala's expense before we get to laughing at Lord Farquat's expense.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I make that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
A giant nothing burger, exactly like Trudeau. In that whole interview was a succession of insanity. I wanted to pull up this comment here from Esky Dogs. Hey, Esky Dogs, I love Sean Parnell and his show, plus today's show when he had Rich Barris on as a guest. Fabulous bunch of folks in that battleground group. Yes. And so what I'm going to do, and the idea kind of came to me today, I think they're hosting a giant special with Sean Parnell and Wendy Bell and Rich Barris. And Rich Barris is one of the top pollsters in the U.S., and so they're doing an election night special, and I think for us Canadian folks, I'm going to pipe that in on the U.S. election night, simply because I can't think of a better bunch of patriots down there. If we're going to listen to somebody, that's who I'm going to choose to listen to on election night, and I'll share that with the rest of my community out here as well. So Kamala is heading south like a rocket sled on rails. So I thought I'd start off with that little joke today. Now we're going to get into some good news from Police on Guard for Thee. This post particularly, I chose this one just because it's a great Cole's Notes simplification of what Cullen McDonald, if you're not familiar, he won a huge case here just this past week, and it's important for people to know. So I'm going to read this out for those of you that are on the 4x2s and won't be able to read it off the screens here. So Cullen McDonald's been a longtime activist. He's a friend of mine. I like Cullen. If you guys remember the SOS from Niagara Falls across to New York, that was seen in New York and kind of made the news. Well, that was one of Cullen's events, and totally peaceful, creative. Nobody's got a bigger heart for Canada than Cullen, but he's won his case. It's all over social media. But why should we care? Why should we also care that the mainstream media is not covering this case at all, at all, at all? So we should care, and here's why. Cullen became a test case for Canada. While similar cases were being dismissed across the country, Mr. McDonald's case was pushed forward by prosecutors in hopes of setting a precedent for future cases pitting public health orders against our charter rights. Remember C-293, what they're proposing to make law in that? I've got a sneaky suspicion that this case might have actually affected the priority level of Bill C-293. So criminal lawyers like Saron Gebreselassie, forgive me if I don't get that right, but I gave it a stab, right? But in all my years of practicing law, I've never seen a case that has the potential to cause more damage to rights and freedoms in Canada than the case of His Majesty the King versus Cullen McDonald. Mr. McDonald was charged with 3 counts of common nuisance. Pretty basic charge, you'd think, right? The default charge for anyone who dared protest public health mandates. 2 charges for attending a protest in Niagara, and a 3rd for attending a protest in St. Catharines. His charges from Niagara were acquitted by Justice Richard Blown, who concluded that elevating a violation of provincial health orders to a criminal offense would set a dangerous precedent. You don't say, right? as it would allow every infraction of public health measures to be treated as a criminal offense rather than just a provincial violation. Very huge point. Massive point. A few weeks later, and a few towns over, the charge from St. Catharines produced a verdict in direct opposition to the previous, despite being nearly identical cases. Justice de Philippis, believing Cullen held a higher level of responsibility as one of the organizers of the protest, levied a guilty verdict against Cullen, leaving him with a criminal record and fine of $4,000. Cullen appealed his guilty verdict, while the Crown prosecutor, Michael Lucifora, appealed both acquittals and the sentencing of his guilty verdict, believing 1 year in jail would be more suitable than simply paying a fine and victim surcharge. Wow, they wanted to lock him up for a year, hard sentence, right? In a show of true Canadian justice, the appeal court's decision not only dismissed the Crown's appeals of Mr. MacDonald's acquittals, but the judgment also overturned the original guilty verdict. Cullen MacDonald is a free man. The potential impacts to all Canadians, had this case been lost, are truly sobering. At stake were the very rights and freedoms we've all believed were there to protect us from a tyrannical government overreach. Our freedom of conscience and religion, our freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, our freedom of peaceful assembly, and our freedom of association. Had the Crown won their case, police would be free to arbitrarily arrest anyone violating a bylaw in the name of public safety and with no regard for their rights. Make no mistake, Cullen MacDonald's win is a win for all of Canada. We now have a precedent validating the rightful position of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms within the context of the pandemic and associated public health measures. All Canadians should be celebrating this victory. We thank him for his hard work and determination and applaud all who supported and promoted his case. Cullen firmly believes that without the show of support from Canadians, his case may have been lost, like so many others. We all stand together for the rights and freedoms of Canadians. And I love so much some of the things that they said there. Absolutely, us participating is critical. We've seen this happen time and time and time and time again. When the courts are forced to look out across that room and know that Canadians are bearing witness to it, it's not just hidden behind closed doors. The ones that are hidden behind closed doors, they don't go like that, right? So it's important that we get behind these cases. I remember when this first all started, I told folks back then already, guys, we're going to have patience because the wheels of justice move so much slower than the pace of the crimes being committed against us. And it's taken some time, but these kinds of things have to be, supported consistently. We have to hold the line and refuse to move. In Cullen's case, that's exactly what he did. There's so many more worse, less serious. We have to continue to support each other and resist the tyranny, because change is a coming, folks. Now we're going to get into the Farquat bashing. We'll start out with a little commentary, a couple of clips from the mercenary media, the corporate Marxist media, the Mockingbird mercenaries, the fake news, whatever you want to call them. But these are important clips to kind of give you guys, when these guys are saying these kinds of things, it's got to make you smile. There's just no other way. So this first one's only a minute and 11. I love that number.
Do you think Justin Trudeau should stay on as Liberal leader? No, I don't. My job has always been to project.
Cheers, Mr. Casey.
People I represent in Ottawa, to be Charlottetown's representative in Ottawa and not the reverse. And the message that I've been getting loud and clear and more strongly as time goes by is that it's time for him to go. And I agree.
Did you come to that conclusion before you started hearing it at the doors? I mean, when you talk to people in your riding, what are your constituents saying to you?
There's a general malaise. There's a level of tiredness. The number one issue at the doors in Prince Edward Island has for a long time been healthcare. That's been supplanted by concerns over leadership, and people have had enough. They've tuned him out, and they want him to go. I can't tell you the number of people that have said to me,
he's got to go. I'm not sure who this Sean Casey's riding is, but you should be. That should give you a twinge of hope if you're in his riding, because obviously he's feeling threatened for his seat, and you're going to hear a little quote from Trudeau that he let slip earlier in the hearings today. 100% Leonard, he's right, but trying to save his own ass or his career is over. That's what every single one of these guys is trying to do right now, is to try and save their own bacons. And here we got a minute and 46 from City News. Kind of surprising, but I think it's worth a listen.
The Prime Minister has spent the day on the hot seat at the foreign interference inquiry, but he's also feeling some heat from within his own party.
A veteran Liberal who represents Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. He said he keeps hearing on the doorstep from voters who are worried about the prospects of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives winning power. And Casey's comments come amid reports of dozens of other MPs signing onto a document internal in the caucus pushing for.
Is anybody hearing this, or is this just folks on Facebook?
But it's clear the pressure from within is growing, and those Liberals, Cynthia, are increasingly worried about holding on to their own seats.
Absolutely. And can he keep them under control? So what is the feeling in Ottawa right now? Can Trudeau hang on and lead the Liberals into the next election, whenever that might be?
Awesome.
Well, he has dismissed reports about any caucus revolt as internal intrigue, and he insists that he's staying in the job. And the party doesn't have a mechanism to force him out in the way that the Conservatives did with Aaron O'Toole.
He took that mechanism out.
But if enough MPs go public with their demands for a leadership change, it'll be harder and harder for him to resist. Big test is going to come next week when Trudeau faces his MPs at the weekly caucus meeting on Wednesday. He's expected to insist that he remains the best position to take on Pierre Poilievre in a general election whenever it happens.
Fascinating to watch all the politics. Glenn, thank you very much.
So, sorry about that, guys. Good to they'll blackmail his own mother. This is a point here that was made here in the chat here back a little ways around. They are desperately trying to save their own bacons. And this is from Mountain. Too little, too late. Casey will lose his seat. That is exactly the situation I think that the overwhelming majority of the Liberal Party is in right now. I think the last count that I saw was perhaps 10 seats left projected for the next election. That's not just a loss. That's an absolute demolishing of a political party. So then now we're going to get into a little bit more Lord Farquat specific. We've got some other stuff that I've got queued up for you guys that he's we're gonna see some of the reaction, some of the problem, but we're gonna start with global news, talking and about the this inquiry for, and we'll start with that.
The day after RCMP alleged Indian diplomats are connected to the killing of a Canadian citizen, the public safety.
An alleged Khalistani terrorist identified as a Canadian citizen only. Important point. This guy was a bad dude.
Minister took the stand.
I have total confidence that we can have elections that would be carried out in total safety.
Dominic LeBlanc testified at the foreign interference inquiry where he said Canadians can vote in confidence, but he had a different message from his fellow ministers about senior staff giving him intelligence.
I'd much rather they phone me or wake me up on a Friday night with some urgent matter than find out 2 days later that we missed a window. So it's quite free flowing.
Earlier in the day, senior officials from the Prime Minister's office explained why some information, like notes about foreign interference, didn't get to the Prime Minister's desk.
Early March, as we all know, 2020, the whole world changed, the country changed. Parliament itself.
Blaming it on COVID. That's Brian Clow. Blaming it on COVID.
Stopped sitting. So this note was interrupted and it did not go to the Prime Minister.
They said some briefings are now delivered in paper for security. The PMO staffers also stated CSIS never named individuals in briefings, and they specified the security agency is handcuffed in what information it can give to people outside of government.
Meetings can often be so general that the member of Parliament doesn't even know what it is can leave the room not fully knowing what it is they're being warned off of, or what they should be nervous about.
Security expert Wesley Wark says Bill C-70 will help that. It allows CSIS to provide some info to politicians, diaspora communities, or other targeted people. With new revelations about India's alleged interference, Wark says he expects it, along with China, to be prominent in the final report scheduled for December release.
We may have finally, if you like, come to a point where no government, whatever its political orientation and its policy desires, no government can afford not to pay attention to intelligence.
The final witness, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, on Wednesday. Nathaniel Dove, Global News.
So today was his big day in the inquiry. I wanted to bring up this comment from Carol. Now, didn't Jagmeet have a private meeting with these terrorists? Yes, he did. His brother is confirmed a Khalistani member of that organization in question, and so is Jagmeet through his association. There is, I believe, warrants for him. He'd be arrested if he goes into India, for example. This is, it's so normalized by our Canadian government that we've got these kinds of people, working, supposedly managing, serving us as, running our country. It's such a joke. And we're going to tell lots of jokes. And we'll get into some more of this. So next up here is a post from Dan Knight, whose comment was added to Michael Chong's statement based on behalf of the leader of the opposition. So we'll start with Dan's comment. Justin Trudeau has refused to release the names of MPs who worked with foreign actors to interfere in our elections, even after allowing China to bus in high school students to swing votes for Dan Hong. This is an important point. We're going to come back to that a little bit further down the road in unpacking all of this, right? Pierre Poilievre called them out, demanding answers. 54 days on a CSIS warrant, warnings ignored, and still Trudeau hides the truth. Let that sink in. Who is he protecting? Another very gigantic question, the elephant in the room. So now you guys here are all very familiar with our thoughts here, what we've researched and uncovered about the foreign infiltration of the World Economic Forum, Switzerland, Davos, all of these non-governmental agencies. I'm not straying from that. In my opinion, basically 330 of them probably are corrupt and captured and operating on behest of foreign influences. Anybody that signed on to a UN, WEF, WHO agreement is working on the behests. But that's the whole enchilada. We're just looking at one of the ingredients of the corruption and foreign influence enchilada. So the statement from Michael Chong is the statement of Pierre Poilievre on the Prime Minister's testimony at public inquiry on foreign interference. Now you're going to have to bear with me and my failing voice already. I'm going to read this out for those out there on the 4x2s as well. So this is Pierre Poilievre's statement. So I'm kind of taking you through a bit of a path through what the legacy fake news is talking about. And you guys pretty much know anything that they say is probably the opposite of reality. So we started looking at the top side of the enchilada here with the legacy media, etc. But we're gonna get through that. But I think it's important to listen to Pierre Poilievre's statement here. If we're going to talk about them, we got to give both sides a voice, right? So my message to Justin Trudeau is release the names of all MPs that have collaborated with foreign interference. I agree. We just need to ask more specific questions about collaborating with foreign interference. And we're going to ask some of you as well, Mr. Pierre Poilievre. But he won't, because Justin Trudeau is doing what he always does. He is lying. He is lying to distract from a Liberal caucus revolt against his leadership and revelations. He knowingly allowed Beijing to interfere and help him win 2 elections. Fair allegations from the leader of the opposition. So now we have to start. Now we're juggling the title of the show, Clown World or Cover-Up, Clown World or Cover-Up. We're going to be juggling a lot of that here for the next little bit, folks. I was briefed on October 4th, Pierre says. I was briefed on October 14th, 2024 by Natalie Drouin, National Security and Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister, David Morrison, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs at Global Affairs Canada, and Daniel Rogers, Director of CSIS, about the matter of foreign interference from India. At least he's specific on this. The CSIS Act allows the government to offer information to any Canadian about specific risks of foreign interference without forcing them into sworn secrecy or controlling what they say. Really? So any one of us, by the sounds of this, should be able to ask. He goes on to say, receiving a secret briefing would, according to Justin Trudeau's chief of staff, prevent a recipient from using the information in any manner. And even where that is not the case, briefing political parties on sensitive intelligence regarding an MP could put the leader or representative of a political party in a tough position, because any decision affecting the MP might have to be made without giving them due process. Wait a minute. Isn't that up to you, me, we, us, the population, the people of Canada to decide? That's not up to the party, right? But anyways, I digress. Carrying on for him. Furthermore, my chief of staff has received classified briefings from the government. At no time has the government told me or my chief of staff of any current or former Conservative parliamentarian or candidate knowingly participating in foreign interference. These are important points, folks. All of this is going to come back around to make sense. You don't add all of the good ingredients in an enchilada right at the beginning, right? So if Justin Trudeau has evidence to the contrary, he should share it with the public. Now that he has blurted it out in general terms at a commission of inquiry, he should release the facts. But he won't, because he's making it up. It's beyond rich for Justin Trudeau to grandstand, even given that the record now shows that he and his government, with all of the benefits of government agencies, were repeatedly warned about foreign interference, including within the Liberal Party, and refused to act. Is it Justin Trudeau and his government who repeatedly claim that they weren't aware of foreign interference happening right under their noses, despite a paper trail of warnings from officials? Is it Justin Trudeau's government which mysteriously sat on a CSIS surveillance warrant application for a Liberal power broker for 54 days? Geez, do you think that would have affected our elections? I digress. It is Justin Trudeau's party that will willingly allowed the PRC consulate to bus in PRC international high school students to vote in the now infamous Han Dong nomination race. It is Justin Trudeau who has ignored my calls to release the names of parliamentarians referenced in this spring's NSI COP, and I don't know how to say that, too many acronyms, report, who have wittingly worked for the benefit of foreign governments against the interests of Canada. So that's Pierre's official statement on the matter. And this is Andy Lee. Y'all know Andy Lee. If you don't, you should. If you're not following Andy Lee, you should. Pretty much the only place I think you can find her work is on X, but she is absolutely prolific, and she reads, and she's fluent in Mandarin. So she can read all the things that we can't, and she loves to expose them. So Trudeau needs to stop the gaslighting. The CSIS Act allows the government to offer information to any Canadian about specific risks of foreign interference without forcing them into sworn secrecy or controlling what they say. So we need to learn from this and start asking the correct questions about foreign interference with other countries or other agencies that are unelected and have no business interfering on the democratic process of our country, and start to filter some non-governmental organizations through the same thing. So, and it's again the same, the letter there again. So no, I'm not going to read that all to you guys again. So a couple of other points and things that I'm just going to kind of skip through quickly. We've got some good comments. Trudeau testifying at the foreign interference inquiry that right-wing populism is a greater threat to Canadian democracy than foreign interference is the reveal. Voters are a threat to the ruling elite. He said it. We need populism more than ever. So an interesting point brought up by Buck McYoung on X. By the way, guys, if you're not following this platform on X, you should be. I'll put the, do you have a link for it somewhere here? There we go. Give us a follow over on X as well. So I got a minute and 45. Now we're going to get into the juicy stuff. Lord Farquat actually hanging himself by himself on in an open forum. So we've covered a little bit how Jagmeet figures into this. So my personal opinion is they're covering for the Khalistani terrorists that India is and has been after here in Canada, operating in Canada for a very long time. And I'll show you some reasons why I think that's probably the truth. So this is from Bruce McGonigal. The public inquiry into foreign interference has devolved into a smear campaign against India that makes very little sense.
To Commission Counsel earlier.
I'll start that again.
You also indicated to Commission Counsel earlier that the diplomats were passing informations to officials at the highest level of the Indian government, who then would pass on the information to the criminal gangs to orchestrate the violence. So given that reality, this was not just a rogue operation of a few individuals that went off track. At some level, in some form, there was a clear policy decision that was authorized and directed by responsible members of the government of India to orchestrate this violence. Is that fair?
I think that is an extremely important question. And that is a question that actually we have been repeatedly asking the government of India to assist us on. And to get to the bottom of the question of whether it is or could be rogue elements within the government, or whether it was a more systematic endeavor for the government of India, is exactly the kind of thing that for investigators here on the ground in Canada, it is somewhat removed from being able to uncover the internal machinations of the Indian government, of who went wrong or who did this or who did that. That's why from the very beginning, we have been asking for India, the Indian government, to take these allegations seriously and proceed with their own investigations and work with us on figuring out exactly how these egregious violations of Canadian sovereignty actually happened.
Totally passed the buck onto India, pointing the finger, everything India, 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 India. Meanwhile, these people that are protecting and others very much like them, you know, are still engaged in their activities. And so I got to talk a clip here from a Pleb reporter, but wanted to read you Taco's comment first, you know, to remind us that they got the riot horses out when law-abiding citizens protested an illegal government emergency order, but a handful of pro-Palestine protesters is enough to scare them away. And there we go. The terrorist sympathizers Trudeau foolishly allowed to immigrate to Canada are now physically attacking his motorcade in downtown Ottawa. You seriously can't make this shit up. All his terrible policy decisions are blowing up in his face. Let's take a look.
More RCMP coming through. This is the RCMP being attacked. RCMP trying to get through Justin Trudeau's office. This is the RCMP trying to get through. This is the RCMP in front of Justin Trudeau's office getting attacked.
This is Trudeau's motorcade. And what are they doing?
This is the RCMP trying to get through here. Trying to get through behind me. The mob the RCMP appear to be retreating. The RCMP just tried to get through here. We're attacked by a mob. The RCMP attacked by this mob. The RCMP now retreating. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police retreating. Ottawa Police noticeably absent. Absolute mayhem in downtown Ottawa. The RCMP just retreated from an angry mob.
So I got questions. Was it actually RCMP? They weren't marked units. Obviously, they were units. Tons of people. It looked to me like there was still plenty of cops there on the street. Looks to me like by the end of it, there was more cops outnumbering. The cops outnumbered the protesters there. But you know, it's tough. You know, Dacey does a really good job. You know, I give him huge props for being down there in the thick of it every day, unfinished, unvarnished. But you know, it's easy to get lost in the adrenaline of those kinds of things. To me, and I think, you know, when you know the next by tomorrow, Dacey might think a little bit differently than that as well. But yeah, that whole situation, I suspect it was probably parliamentary police more so than RCMP. They don't really operate anywhere in Ontario, so that. But it's interesting what they still could get away with. Now, the only way that wasn't two-tier treatment, special, you know, given special privilege, if that was genuine, then these people got away with things that no other Canadian would ever, first of all, would attempt. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't interfere with, you know, police vehicles traveling down the road, first and foremost. And you know, assaulting the cars, Canadians don't do that. These kind of paid operative thugs, they do that. And people like Bill Blair set those things up. So back to Lord Farquat's, the Lord Farquat experience in Canada. We've got a poster from Sam Cooper. Trudeau pointed to criminal intelligence leakers numerous times. Pretty alarming, since Canadians would arguably know nothing about hostile states using mafias to attack our society, except for several reporters that in some cases got classified leaks. As I write in WB, my book caused intel sources to contact me in 22, and that was based on my own diaspora research and expertise and conclusions that I was seeing tremendous UF interference in our elections, and it all involves organized crime. Who can argue with that? Not one little bit. Exactly echoing the things that we've been talking about and exposing on this platform for years now, right? So, part of what I try to do here every day is to cipher. I have to show you the propaganda to show you the reality, or explain or talk about the reality. So a lot of times that's what I'm doing, is I'm leading a path through the propaganda to kind of try and keep people going in the right direction as to what reality is. And when Trudeau is referring to criminal intelligence leakers, CSIS confirmed that China interfered in Canada's 2021 federal election. Beijing's goal was to defeat conservative politicians considered hostile to China and to secure the re-election of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government. Now, this is the Washington Examiner. That's not just, folks like us being bashed for being conspiracy theorists. This is a well-known fact. So now we're going to get into some of Trudeau's lying and get everybody a little bit wound up on, or cuts to the gold bits, I guess, for some of the clown worlds and the cover-up and the drama, the preening of Lord Farquat.
One of the other things is in 2015, as we watched the American impending election of Donald Trump, and
Trump did it.
The rise of right-wing populism around the world.
Oh,
seemed to be
we did it.
Big threats, that big concerns that we had that was potentially destabilizing. Things like Brexit coming along, Donald Trump's election. There was a lift of right-wing populism that was very much the moment we were living in 2015, 2016, 2017, and grappling with as a responsible, progressive, rule of law democracy. One of the other things is in 2015, as we watched the American...
You're going on repeat here. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, Trump did it, and far-right nationalism did it. This is one that's triggered me right from the beginning. Remember when Christopher Freeland went and stood in front of the UN as soon as they got into power and said that far-right nationalism and Christians were the greatest threat to the new international rules-based order. So Trump did it, and he was already targeting us right back at the beginning. So now we're going to, we've seen some of the other allegations. Let's hear again 30 seconds from Mr. Trudeau.
Seems to try and get India to cooperate with us. Their ask of us was, well, how much do you know? Give us the evidence you have on this. And our response was, well, it's within your security agencies. You should be looking into how much they know. You should be engaging. No, tell us what you know. Show us the evidence. And at that point, it was primarily intelligence, not hard evidentiary proof. So we said, well, let's work together and look into your security services, and maybe we can get that done.
So Trudeau made the allegations. India said, show me some evidence. And he says, no, I'm not showing you the evidence. This is intelligence from a man that has almost no intelligence. So now we've got clear and strong evidence to no evidence by his own lips, right? So you cannot be this incompetent. So this is what removes the option of calling it clown world out of the equation. Can't be oh, here's the same clip. Sorry, I guess I doubled that up. What do we got next here? Okay, this is gonna be a really good clip. This is a little bit longer one, guys. It looks like we're gonna go over a little bit here tonight. So we've seen the propaganda, we've seen the legacy media, we've seen the party revolting against him. Is it any wonder why he's following through with his cover up? Trying to dance through the this inquiry. I could have pulled up so much more. It was hours. I suffered through it, so you didn't have to. But you guys are going to be seeing a lot of clips, and it's important to get informed on this. But I think it's also critical to hear from the United States, right? So here we've got, and I can't confirm this guy as to whether he's any good or not. I don't know him. Michael Rubin, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and director of national policy analysis at the Mideast Forum on October 15th. So this is a gold nugget, and you'll be able to find a link to this in tomorrow's Substack as well. But I highly encourage you folks to listen in sharply to this one, because we've heard both sides of the dime drop from Trudeau. We've seen his party revolting against him. Names are finally starting to come out. Let's hear what the U.S., who's obviously, there are people down there with 18 days left to go, 20 days left to go to the election. They're paying attention to this meat muppet up here, guys, and it's good to know.
Canadian crisis seems to arise whenever Justin Trudeau gets into political trouble. The complaint of the Indians all along is, why are you blaming us? You have this snowballing.
Let's see if I can make this a little louder.
Which we've been warning you about. It's almost like,
I'm going to back this up because I was messing up on my buttons here, but I'll pull it up here and I'll see if I can make it a little bit louder for you. If I can't, it is what it is.
The Canadian crisis seems to arise whenever Justin Trudeau gets into political trouble. The complaint of the Indians all along is, why are you blaming us? You have this snowballing organized crime problem, which we've been warning you about. And it's almost like the Canadians are turning around and blaming everything on India that India warned the Canadians about to try to prevent.
Really? This is the gold, guys. This is the boom moment, right? This is, actual intelligence agencies making an absolute liar, pants on fire of Lord Farquat.
The Canadians seem to be flying by the seat of Justin Trudeau's pants. This isn't simply
and he's dragging us around in the damn trunk.
A matter of accusing India for political gain. Justin Trudeau is intent on digging his way to China at this point, simply because he's not going to acknowledge his own mistake, because he's putting his ego above the national interests of Canada. So basically,
I like this guy.
If there's any evidence there, the Canadians would have known about it in advance. The fact that there was not intelligence there shows that Justin Trudeau is mischaracterizing what the United States said. And now what he's trying to do is try to get the United States government into a corner to try to defend him. Well, we're not going to do that. That's politicization of intelligence. India's got to stand up for itself.
He's literally thinking that he can manipulate the U.S. government into covering his ass. Do you think Trudeau's mortified about the way the U.S. election is going? Do you think that might have an influence on how many liberats are racing off of the ship? Why they're screaming so hard for him to take a long walk in the snow? I think things might be getting a little clearer for the Liberals when they see what isn't working anymore, the shiny luster of Lord Farquat and the rest of the Meat Muppet Swamp Zombies in Ottawa. Their days are numbered.
The problem with Canada's accusations today are the same as they were more than a year ago. They're eliding a lot of the evidence. It seems to be the Canadian crisis seems to arise whenever Justin Trudeau gets into political trouble. He's now polling 10% behind the opposition leader. And when you actually look at the evidence which the Canadians are citing, there's not a lot of there. And it, for me as an American, when I read the Canadian evidence and their accusations, we were in JFK conspiracy territory. We were in the territory relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. For example, arguing that the Canadians, arguing that the Indians were leveraging.
So he basically saying Trudeau is a total wackadoodle, making bunk up because he's in trouble, right? I don't think, exactly, Leonard. He nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. Like I said, I'm starting to like this guy. I have questions of him too, but in the moment here, I'm liking this dude.
Organized crime in Canada to do their own dirty work. Look, the complaint of the Indians all along is, why are you blaming us? You have this snowballing organized crime problem, which we've been warning you about. And it's almost like the Canadians are turning around and blaming everything on India that India warned the Canadians about to try to prevent.
Right. Now, there is a committee that's coming in from India to investigate this.
Any of that seem familiar?
When it comes to the Pannu case, the Pakistani Pannu case. How is India really dealing with both these countries? The same issue, but the way they're balancing it with the U.S. Vis-a-vis the Canadian side. What is your take on that?
The outtake on this is that the Americans realize that there is a nuanced problem. The difference between the Americans and the Canadians seem to be flying by the seat of Justin Trudeau's pants. The Americans recognize the complexity of the issue. This isn't simply a matter of accusing India for political gain. Look, the San Francisco consulate has been attacked twice by Sikh extremists, by Khalistani militants. The Americans understand at this point that the Khalistani militants are engaged in organized crime, and therefore they recognize that not all is as meets the eye. That's why the Indians seem to also be much more willing to trust the American investigation, because the American investigation is much less designed to protect a single prime minister and much more designed to get to the heart of the matter.
Now, give us a sense of things. You've talked to people back in Canada. Why is Trudeau trying to do this? What is he trying to achieve by putting an important bilateral relationship, go through these unprecedented trials time and again? You had this year ago, and you see it. You said, when he's in trouble, he tries to do this all over again. What's your take on that?
Look, my take on this is Justin Trudeau is nearing his 9th year in office. When he came into office, there was a lot of optimism that he would be a fresh face. The reason why his popularity has plummeted, and not simply on this issue, is because he has consistently put himself above the interests of Canada. He has consistently showed himself to be a lightweight. And in this situation,
this guy's nailing it.
Trudeau, in a fit of pique more than a year ago, decided to spark a diplomatic crisis, and he may honestly have not realized the import of what he was accusing. Well, India stood up for itself and rather, look, the first rule of holes is when you're in a hole, stop digging. And it seems...
Right. Is he right or is he right? Right? Wow. When you're in a hole, stop digging. And he has destroyed Canada's relationship everywhere around the world. And I love the way this guy is talking about Trudeau, Lord Farquat, like he is a petulant child, because that's exactly, he's a petulant, narcissistic, ego-driven, egomaniacal, oligarch, dictator, wannabe, WEF, Fourth Reich, uh, Heil Klaus, clone trooper. As he is as vanilla cookie cutter as it gets when it comes to that. But even he can't figure out. Oh, stop digging! I love it.
Seems that Justin Trudeau is intent on digging his way to China at this point, simply because he's not going to acknowledge his own mistake, because he's putting his ego above the national interests of Canada.
Now, did you like go through the strongly worded, statements that were put out by the Indian
He's going to
side?
get us in trouble.
Something that,
Absolutely.
we haven't seen in years from the Indian side. This was like a direct attack on Trudeau. This is a direct and a strongly worded attack on Canada. What do you make of this? Where the Indians are coming from?
Well, look, the Indians have every right to be angry for two reasons. First of all, when I read many of the leaks, and some of the leaks were also published in the Washington Post not too long ago, there was a lot of assumptions made, 2 or 3 degrees of separation. What the Canadians are essentially saying is that this plot goes all the way to the top of the Indian government. This plot goes to the top of the Indian government because some of those who have conspired are 2 or 3 degrees removed from Prime Minister Modi. Well, you know what? I've done this game before, where I found that I'm 2 or 3 people removed from the presidents of most countries on earth. That doesn't matter when I get that doesn't mean that when I get a speeding ticket when I'm driving, that somehow the government of China or the government of Turkey or the government of South Africa is responsible. That's the type of logic we're dealing with. When they don't have the evidence, the Canadians seem to make it up and say, hey, look, we're Westerners. You got to believe us. And that doesn't fly in India, the world's largest democracy. Frankly, it doesn't fly in the global South or anywhere else in the world. It doesn't fly in the United States. That's where the Canadians are making their mistake. But let's look at this.
It's not Canadians, it's Trudeau.
From an American perspective, what the Canadians are accusing the Indians of doing isn't much different from what the Pakistanis accused the United States of doing when we killed Osama bin Laden. And you know what? Maybe the question the Pakistanis should have asked is, why were we harboring a master terrorist?
Why are we harboring so many terrorists? Why are we harboring all of India's terrorists? Why do India's terrorists, the world's largest democracy, have so many of their enemies, their terrorists in their country? Why are so many of them got such high-paying, cushy jobs like government positions where they might get pensions for life, and Canadians don't just foot the bill for it? We bear the burden of the guilt. We will pay the price. The Canadians will pay the price. And I understand that this guy is talking in broad spectrum, but that's how the world thinks. The world thinks we're down with this shit.
And the fact of the matter is,
why? Because we can't get our shits together enough to stop them.
Is Canada, through initially fraudulent immigration chains.
Gee, you don't say, sir. Wow, I love this guy. He's probably one of the most informed Americans I've listened to in a very long time.
Sorry. First, Canada, through initially fraudulent immigration claims and then chain immigration, has set itself up to be a money laundering and terror financing, terror supporting hub. And, many Americans, many Canadians may not understand what the Khalistan movement is. But when you think back on Air Canada, when you think back on Air India 182 back in 1985, this group is potentially as deadly and as vicious as Al-Qaeda.
100%.
Justin Trudeau needs to be asking, why am I protecting these people?
Right. Now, this all started on Sunday, of course. There have been developments.
Most of us gave it a very guttural pronunciation or enunciation of that. What we call or read as the Khalistani movement. This is Jagmeet Singh's brother. This is Jagmeet Singh. This is millions of others that we have absolutely no idea about. And when you import third world problems, you're going to have third world problems. If you import ISIS, you will have ISIS. If you import Al Qaeda, you'll have Al Qaeda. If you import Hezbollah, you'll have a Hezbollah. If you import Khalistanis, well, guess what? Here we are, and we have become the grand central hub where they're all getting fat and lazy here in Canada, and we're paying for it.
Developments yesterday as well, with Canada reaching out to India, saying that it has evidence against India, and officials have planned the murder of a Canadian citizen. That's a Niger. What do you make of the speed at which the things are unfolding between the two countries? And is there enough substance for Trudeau to say that we have evidence against India, and why is it not out in the public domain?
He tells the rest of the world that he's got evidence, but he sits and lies to Canadians at the inquiry and says he has no actually evidence. And they're telling the world, he's calling bullshit on him, saying he has no evidence. He's just out there making pissy allegations that he can't back up.
This is one of the problems. First of all, one of the frustrations with Justin Trudeau is when he got himself in a corner, he tried to expose American intelligence. Now, when you act as a former consumer of American intelligence, Justin Trudeau's accusations didn't make sense. When the Americans know something ahead of time, we will forewarn the government of an impending assassination. Not just with our friends. We've actually done it with the Iranians before more than 2 decades ago. What happened in Canada, in Surrey, was that you had what essentially seemed to be a organized crime hit, a Sikh-on-Sikh gang violence episode. And the Americans, after the fact, said, we have a lot of chatter on this. No smoking gun, but you can look through our chatter. Justin Trudeau, as the lightweight he is, said, the Americans are giving us intelligence, with a nod and a wink. If the Americans are if this is coming from American intelligence, it has to be right. That's not the way intelligence works. Basically, if there was any evidence there, the Canadians would have known about it in advance. The fact that there was not intelligence there shows that Justin Trudeau is mischaracterizing what the United States said. And now what he's trying to do is try to get the United States government into a corner to try to defend him. Well, we're not going to do that. That's politicization of intelligence. And that's why the CIA would very much like the Five Eyes to become Four Eyes if Canada is going to play this sort of game.
Did you hear that? That's pretty serious. This guy knows his shit, and he knows that Trudeau's a joke. And he's trying to save his own ass by lying about India to cover up his own damn crime spree. So at this point, this is just a giant charade. Justin Trudeau needs to be the first one arrested and investigated, and should never see the light of day again, in my opinion. The evidence is, as you're listening to this gentleman, I don't remember his name sorry. I'll make sure that it's in the Substack, of course. But if America stops working with our intelligence agency, who's the only one that's stopping anything from ever happening here in Canada? Every time there's a terrorist event that's about to go off, it's the American intelligence agency that warns the people in Canada. So the American intelligence agencies are doing more to protect us than our own damn intelligence agencies. And Justin Trudeau is absolutely destroying that relationship based on his own narcissistic ego, trying to manipulate to cover his own damn ass, protecting terrorism and organized crime. I don't know how much more blunt I can make that deduction.
So that's one of the problems. You look at some of the other evidence. Again, it doesn't make sense. So the Canadians are saying that India is controlling the mafia. This is reminiscent of how John F. Kennedy conspiracy theorists said that the mafia and the CIA were working fist in glove with maybe even the Castro administration in order to kill John F. Kennedy. So that doesn't make sense. And then when you actually look at the nitty-gritty, well, if the mastermind of this is in Indian prison, that's another problem we have out there.
Not all of them, because some of them are in our parliament. I think I can't be. I don't want to be quoted on this, but if I'm not mistaken, it was Ahmed Hussein, who spent a couple of years in prison for. I thought it was Air India, but maybe it was another one. The problem is Canadian politicians are kind of habitual with this kind of behavior, it seems.
The Canadians seem to be making an issue whenever Justin Trudeau is in hot political water, and enough is enough. I mean, there's the old parable about the boy who cried wolf. I mean, Justin Trudeau is crying wolf every day. If Canadians don't trust him, why should Indians or Americans?
Trudeau also reached out to the UK Prime Minister yesterday, discussing this issue. Do you expect Trudeau to reach out to the US side? And what is your assessment in the days ahead? How would the US balance this out, considering, you have Canada on one side and India, an important strategic ally?
Well, Justin Trudeau is going to try to hope that politics and diplomatic nicety trump the truth. What he always does is he jumps off a cliff.
He's counting on C-63 and the Online Harms Act and the One World New Rules-Based Order of the WEF Fourth Reich. He's banking on that. And he is writing checks on the bodies and the corpses in the graveyard of our country to do this. And he somehow thinks that he's going to skate all of this. And if Trump comes in, as the rest of the world is starting to see, that's probably not very likely, because this administration is fully aware of the criminal activities of the government called Canada.
And hopes that his British or American friends will put a big mattress there underneath him to catch him when he falls. It doesn't work that way. Our relations with India are way too important. They're way too bipartisan. They date back to the George W. Bush administration, and they're the only thing that really unites George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and
when you talk to Americans, you got to understand they're a businessman culture. And when it costs them money, they stop playing the game. And don't know the numbers, but I would suggest that the United States of America is far more interested in doing business with India than they are in losing business with Canada. So Trudeau is going all in, making bets that he cannot cash, and this is literally the equivalent of the U.S. calling the Trudeau bluff. Jigs up.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That's an amazing relationship. To try to drag that down, to try to burn the house down in a fit of pique, in a Justin Trudeau temper tantrum, isn't mature leadership on the global stage. So what I suspect the Biden administration will do is what we did last time. Say, we have our own ongoing investigation. We're very happy with Indian cooperation. And perhaps our investigation isn't pointing in the same direction with the Canadian.
Whoa! Burn! Farquat, burn!
Indians are claiming theirs.
In the coming days, we will see an administration change here in the United States, be it, Vice President Kamala Harris becoming the president of this country, or former President Trump coming back. What does this really mean for the India-US relationship, especially at a point where
Update on that
there are
coming tomorrow.
discussions about, these sticky issues like the Khalistani movement.
Well, first of all, when it comes to the American elections, I don't have a horse in this race personally because I'm not particularly a fan of either candidate. But as an analyst rather than an advocate, I worry what a Kamala Harris administration would mean for this issue. On one hand, Kamala Harris will sometimes say, well, I have Indian background.
Joy.
On the other hand, the problem with Kamala Harris is that her deflection to the progressive base will lead to an unleashing of the worst instincts of the State Department. So what I worry about is while we have more mature leadership with the Biden administration, more seasoned leadership, under a Kamala Harris administration, we could be much more like Justin Trudeau. And
who would have ever thought we would have a Democrat dude that would have Trudeau so pegged, right? I agree, Esky Dogs, whoever the speaker is, but he sure has Trudeau well analyzed. He knows Trudeau better than Trudeau knows himself. Wow, love it. And this is coming from a Democrat supporter in the United States. So what do you think that the color of the next act in the coloring book is going to look like when Mr. Trump takes office again?
And that's why I hope that this issue is resolved before Kamala Harris or Donald Trump take their oath of office on January 20th.
There is an important summit going on in the Indian subcontinent, that's the HCO summit. There is no bilateral component between India and Pakistan. An important platform where the talks could move forward. What's your take on it?
Well, what I find unfortunate is whenever there are so many issues in the world today. And whenever we have these multilateral summits, the G20, for example, where this first erupted with Justin Trudeau's accusations, what Canada does and what Justin Trudeau through his ego does is he completely derails the agenda when there are so many more important issues at stake. And that is what is becoming unfortunate. That's what's also causing a great deal of frustration with Justin Trudeau outside of New Delhi. And the fact of the matter is, whenever we try to work on something, whenever the world tries to get together to address trade, to address climate change, there's Justin Trudeau saying, hey, look at me. And I mean, the world's had enough of that.
I absolutely love that. So it's Michael Rubin. He's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and director of policy analysis at the Middle East Forum. So that should make everybody smile, knowing that even the Democrats in the States are done with the joke of Justin Trudeau. What we have to do is we have to let them know that it's not Canadians that are the joke, that it is actually Justin Trudeau that is the joke. And that's kind of up to us. We do the same thing. We generalize, somebody might have to reboot there, right? But we're going to take a couple more looks at the inquiry, given what you guys have all heard. And what do we got here? Sorry, guys. Looks like we got probably another half hour, so we are really running into overtime tonight. But we got a couple more. Given what you guys have all heard, what we've uncovered, understanding who he's, I think, protecting, and let's listen to a few more of the lies so that you guys can know what you're fishing for in the Substack tomorrow. But this is from another one from Bruce McGonigal. The only reason why we don't know who the treasonous actors are in our government is because Justin Trudeau is blocking the release of those names using a lifetime gag order required to get NSI cop clearance. Breaching the lifetime gag order comes with severe penalties up to 14 years in prison. This is an organization. You'll hear what the acronym sound for means in one of these clips here coming up. And it's interesting how even the agencies that he's created are now turning around to chew on him. Remember when I don't remember what this is, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, when I said we were entering the season of the sacrificial political lamb, where the liberals will start eating themselves and the rats will be fleeing from the ship because insanity was unsustainable. We are at that point, folks. So listen up. Another gold nugget of Trudeau lying, trying to protect himself. You guys will have the last gentleman ringing in your ears for the next few clips.
I created the National Security and
Committee
of Parliamentarians for a very specific purpose: to make sure the parliamentarians from all different parties would be able to look into everything that our national security agencies are doing, with at least two clear goals. One is to make sure that our national security agencies are behaving appropriately and not violating Canadians' fundamental rights, or overreaching, or or doing the bidding of one particular government versus the well interests of Canadians. But the second is to make sure that national security agencies are taking seriously all the threats and acting in appropriate ways to counter the threats.
That's why he created it. I created this intelligence gathering agency to make sure that nobody would get away with nothing. Well, we got Brian Lilly's favorite clip, and this is I haven't listened to this clip from Brian Lilly, but I wanted to see, because Brian Lilly is one of the few that I actually listen to within the mercenary media, just to hear his take on things, because he's about the only guy left that I can stomach. I don't agree with everything that he says, but he's usually pretty good at picking out some of the nuggets and the nuances, and he's more of a traditional liberal, but definitely not a Trudeau sycophant. Somehow he still has a job in legacy media, but Trudeau, Brian Lilly says, amazing. Trudeau goes on a 5-minute partisan rant at the inquiry about Polyev and security clearance and conservative names implicated in foreign interference. He and his government have fought the release of any info for years, now claims the real problem is Pierre. So now this 5 minutes is going to basically speak to the matters that the gentleman, what was his name there? Sorry, Michael Rubin was speaking to from the American Policy forums there. So let's listen to this. This is probably going to be the longest Farquat clip I'll probably ever play. But this is testimony. We have been waiting. The whole country's been waiting for this, and we need to. And this is great, that I'm able to sit here tonight and give you guys the nuggets as they went, that you didn't have to sit around for hours and hours and hours, because I'll tell you, that was pain and suffering. That was doing my penance listening to that inquiry, all of it today. So let's listen to what Brian thought was compelling about Trudeau's performance on the grand stage that he loves so much.
Because I am Prime Minister and privy to all these informations, I have the names
Well, am I back? Anybody out there? Somebody give me a thumbs up or something or another. That kind of hurt the bum a little bit. Thank you guys, so many of you guys, for hanging out here. Wow, that was unusual. Kind of haven't had anybody attack the stream like that for quite some time. My internet just popped out. Everything stayed running. I'm grateful for that. I think we got 5x5s everywhere on all of the platforms, just a bunch of dead space. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to finish playing that particular clip for you guys tonight. I'll move on to some other ones, maybe here a little bit shorter. I got to kind of get my dashboard set up here a little bit, but that was something we haven't had to deal with for quite some time. So we must be over the target with our analysis here tonight, guys. I think this is a great one to, I hope everybody's loving this, and give this one a share, guys. Make sure you get plugged into the Substack. And I'll put that link up down below here for everybody as well. I got to find all that stuff again too. Yeah, there it is, down below on the bottom of the page there, guys. Make sure you get plugged in on the Substack, so you guys will at least be able to get all of the links and be able to go and look at it yourselves for anything if we get cut out again. Definitely flying over the target on the stuff that we're covering tonight, and I think that this is probably the deepest analysis of awesome comment. Like someone said, even the internet hates his voice. That could be it. It's no, we're not back on Facebook yet. Looks like we're still not. Folks still on Facebook aren't getting it. Might be a little bit of a time delay. You might have to hit a refresh as well if you're on. I guess if they're on Facebook and they're not catching it. Some folks are still catching it on Facebook, so that's good. That's good. Awesome stuff, guys. We're getting. I have a few more clips lined up. A couple of just real short stuff, so I'll play those, and then I've got a couple of changes of subject that will be a nice reprieve from Mr. Farquat. Okay, I think I've got the next one queued up. This is from David Craden. David Craden. Watch Trudeau pull out all stops during his public inquiry into foreign interference testimony by trying to shift the narrative to social media, Brexit, and Trump. Also, democracy, India, and conservatives. Will this be enough to stop the coup within the Liberal Party?
Social media misinformation and disinformation that were present back in 2015, but not nearly as sophisticated or pervasive as they are now, have caused a lot of challenges. One of the other things is in 2015, as we watched the American impending election of Donald Trump and the rise of right-wing populism around the world, that seemed to be one of the big threats that are big concerns that we had. Big threats were a big threat. Destabilizing things like Brexit coming along, Donald Trump's election. There was
all the things he doesn't like are a threat.
It was very much the moment we were living in 2015, 2016, 2017, and grappling with as a responsible, progressive, rule of law democracy that believes in facts and evidence as the basis for policy decisions, as we are as a government. But over the subsequent years, it is not just about sort of right-wing populism that is still there. There is a significant rise of authoritarianism and an aggressive decline of democracy and democratic values in many corners of the world that are aggressively attempting to destabilize mature democracies.
Oh,
Where
I cannot believe he used the term mature democracy to describe his reign of horrors in here in Canada. 100% JJ made me giggle with this one. He's calling him Skippy. He's and that's an insult to peanut butter, I'm afraid, but absolutely, I believe he is. Oops. Oh, things getting weird on me again. He's so afraid of Trump. So Trump supporters are a threat and destabilizers to everything. Wow, 400 million people there is a threat to his democracy. He had an earpiece in, Anstey brought up here, and I've heard some discussion about that as well today. He tried to write it off as, oh, he was just listening to music during the breaks and the blips kind of thing. Yeah, I can imagine Modi was probably telling him that he was misinformation, disinformation, lying piece of excrement would be my my guess is what, because Modi's had it with him as well. 100%, Billy. All the people around him are more guilty than he is. 100%. Is it okay to have I think the world has unacceptable views of this fool right now, and that is what he is absolutely mortified of. $400 million scandal. The RCMP are closing in. We're going to be covering an American investigation into some issues here in Canada on tomorrow's show. And let's not forget Catherine McKenna's $93 billion that if she had her talking points right and screamed them loud enough and long enough would become true, who is now doing a wonderful job for the United Nations. But I just couldn't, I had to breathe. I had to breathe. And when he called, Canada a mature democracy, first of all, in the terms of nationhood state being a democracy, we are an infant on that scale, barely, over 150 years old. And when it comes to the real effect as in that, it's even lower in, looks like Wimkin didn't come back on. Sorry, guys. Shiny things, questions, issues. Looks like they killed us on Wimkin. That's all right. But yeah, Canada is far from being a mature democracy, far from being a democracy. And this lying piece of shit thinks that he can outsmart the entire damn world to continue his demolition of Canada. So get back to the last quibbling bits.
populism can sometimes sort of twist the rules and the emphasis, and twist the facts a little bit for its own gain. The attacks on the cores of our democracy and our institutions that the authoritarian narratives and attempts at disinformation and propaganda and sowing chaos in our democracies are much more serious and severe over these past years than they have been.
I don't think he could get any more bullshit and lies in his mouth than he just spewed there. He has got the world's largest face for containing bullshit and lies. But I'm going to force you guys to listen to, I think this is the last one I've got, and more of his unhinged excuses. I think that I did listen to this one, so I also think that this is one folks need to get their hands on.
Two francophones speaking to each other in English. Yes, we should try to avoid that. So
he just, the part that they missed here was he forced her to ask this question in French. She started in English, and he said to her in French, which this clip didn't quite catch, you were supposed to ask me questions in French. So there she is, fawning and apologizing and blushing, saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, two francophones. We should avoid that English conversation."
As the Prime Minister, you stated earlier today at the end of your testimony that you would prefer to see NCCOP perhaps go too far rather than not benefiting from its analysis. And
I'll answer that
this
in a second,
would
Zam.
allow
Thanks for your
a
service.
healthy debate around the issue. So my question is this: how do you envisage the possibility of having a debate with regard to what will or was reported? The work of NCCOP is mainly based on information that is classified. So how do you view this? Response. First of all, I would clearly prefer that NCCOP be exact and precise and well-founded in everything it is reporting and putting out. We understand that this is an organization that is rather new, that's still developing its ways of doing things. And for me,
Oh, he made it. So now you're supposed to overlook the fact that it's new and still developing. Okay.
a learning curve is appropriate for an institution that we hope will be in place for decades in order to defend Canada's interests. Clearly, when NCCOP made its report, I asked the Minister for Public Safety to publish a response to the report, to explain, to thank NCCOP for its work, but also to explain that there were elements that we weren't perhaps perfectly aligned on, that might have been slightly erroneous. For me, the important debate.
If he creates the agency, but then if they're not perfectly aligned, then they're incorrect. Got it.
Is that which is taking place within the government with NCCOP that's learning. We're saying, well, maybe the next time we shouldn't go as far. These are adjustments to be made, and you are right in underscoring this. The idea of having a broad debate, a public debate on how NCCOP is working may not be valid, but there could be articles, analysis by journalists, etc., saying the minister stated this, NCCOP said this. I think that is part of the lived experience that we must all accumulate in areas of security, intelligence, and interference.
So it's just a learning curve, and I will get them taught basically, and we just got to deal with it. So that's basically there. So Zam had a question about the U.S. elections. Thanks for tuning in, Zam. Good to see you. That's going back a ways. The basement days, Wendy Bell. So here's my take in 30 seconds or less. They're going to continue to try killing Trump. When he takes office, they're going to try to kill Trump. They're going to keep trying to kill Trump until Trump dies, whether it's by natural causes or otherwise. At this point in time, the world is an absolute shitstorm. And the only one that can, at least in the interim, have any actual political sway is Trump. Like him or hate him is irrelevant at this point. We can't change that. But if he doesn't live, then the world ends that much quicker. So I do think that we're going to interesting point there, that they're going to try and rig it and put Kamala in. They've already tried that. I think the next step is, according to The Simpsons, Kamala gets a box. And I'm seeing some rumblings on that from people like Alex Jones and Viva Frei. So I don't think that we've seen the October surprise yet, as Hillary mentioned. Good point here, Tom. He probably doesn't even know he's lying. His whole life he's got away with saying whatever he wants and having people swallow it, or at least put up with it, or make it reality when he dreamt it up. Now narcissism doesn't allow him to believe he could be wrong 100%. So see here. I'll pull up the next couple of bits here, and then so the Khalistanis are responding, and I'll make sure that this is added in there as well. This was a few hours ago, yesterday actually, I guess. Sorry, they just demanded that Justin Trudeau shut down the Indian embassies in Vancouver and Toronto. So now the terrorists are putting Justin Trudeau on the spot while he is lying to the rest of us. So it's not that China's age. This is a slightly different. Oh, hang on here. I'm going to pop this off because I had an very interesting thing that I wanted to share with you guys, and I kind of lost it in the kerfuffle. Shuffle. There it is. Got this for you. Before we get off of the Khalistanis, nearly 1 in 5 recent immigrants were born in India, the highest proportion from a single place on earth since 1971. The numbers are absolutely staggering. Millions, millions over the last 6 years. There's kind of another breakdown on the so the 2 million and 200,000 Saskatchewan, 100,000 there. I'll let you guys dig that out. I didn't really have it all prepared for that. We'll switch gears here, but with the foreign migrant programs and all of that, we know it's millions and millions, way more than I think anybody can actually put a finger on. And they've said that they've lost 500,000 terrorists already. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, I'm afraid. Regardless of what happens after the American election, I predict chaos manifested by the insane left. They're going to lose their shit either which way. So it's interesting to see. Going to be interesting to see what happens. But so this is switching gears a little bit to back towards the other side of the foreign interference election, back towards China. It's not that China's agents illegally imported busloads of Chinese students to vote for Han Dong, and that MP Blair's negligently delayed a wiretap warrant against China's agents for 54 days, conveniently, or that over 100 CSIS reports were ignored by the Liberal Party. It's because you're a racist. Well, let's look at Andy Lee, who breaks that down just a little bit more, and said, since no one in the Liberal Party seems to know, Han Dong, according to this, beat Julie Bangu Jang, wow, by a mere 14 votes. He won by 14 votes. So that's a Liberal MP that won by 14 votes, meaning that if just 15 students voted for him who did not ordinarily live in his riding, and maybe those ones that were bussed in, 15 of them, you think they brought more than 15, that he is now sitting as an illegitimately elected MP. If and she goes on, breaks it down even more. Since Han Dong seems to be having memory problems, here are the invitations circulating through a student group at Seneca on WeChat asking for assistance to help him win the Liberal Party nomination. It also says the organizer provided volunteers with certificates. Ooh, bribery. Yeah, nothing like a little bit of direct interference. So we got a Cub since if we're flying over the target dropping bombs today, what's a good bombing run without a little bit of Herr Klaus Heil Herr Klaus Schwab? Why do we always have to get used to their plans? Why are we supposed to adapt to their theft of our freedom. Their ever accelerating encroachment on our lives is neither legitimate nor inevitable. Let's tell Schwab and the Rothschilds to GFY. So Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, the leader of the PAC, you have to get used to a total erosion of privacy if you have nothing to hide. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be afraid. Right? All right. Let's hear 20 seconds from Granddaddy Klaus.
Dans ce nouveau monde, on doit accepter
In this new world, we must
transparence,
accept
et je
transparency,
dirais même
and
une
I'll even
transparence
say, I'll
totale.
turn the
Tout
volume
bas-
up. So obviously it's in a different language. I'll read it instead for you guys. In this new world, we must accept transparency. And I'll even say total transparency. Everything is going to be transparent, and you have to get used to it. You have to behave accordingly. It becomes, oh, you've got a little fast on me. It becomes, how should I put it? Ingrained into your personality. But if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be afraid. Right? Totally the Matrix. And of course, another henchman, the WHO's Tedros says the internet has created distrust in the use of lockdowns, masks, and vaccines. Keep up the good work, everyone.
Internet and social media platforms have given people unprecedented access to health information, but they have also turbocharged the spread of mis and disinformation, which has contributed to mistrust in vaccines and other health interventions, fueled stigma and discrimination, and even led to violence against health workers and marginalized groups.
Oh, it's all just about discrimination and marginalized groups. Right. Got it.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, falsehoods about masks, vaccines, and lockdowns spread as fast as the virus itself and were almost as deadly. Internet and social media platforms have given people unprecedented.
It's a small list of people that are as evil as this freak show is. Unprecedented access to health information. You're damn skippy we did, because a bunch of us that were brave enough took the hicks and the licks and kept delivering the real truth, so that enough people got out of the cellar enough to step up and join the fight and the resistance, and then the convoy and all of those things. Those are, that was the health information that was important. We don't spread misinformation. We share the missing information. That is what we do. And your damn skippy access to the internet is how that happened. It's the only way that we stand a chance against beating these monsters. So this is a kind of why I wasn't sure if I was going to get to this, but kind of why I didn't get to the clip or dissecting the numbers. But this is based on an American perspective. What will 4 more years of Kamala look like? Let's ask Canada. At Trudeau's November 2015 election, foreign NPRs made up, non-permanent residents, 2.1% of Canada, 750,000. Upon re-election in 2021, 1.3 million. Today, 3 years post re-election, 3 million. 33% of Canada's total population is now foreign born, including other immigration statuses. This was under 24% when Trudeau took office. With this, Canadians are increasingly suffering the economic decline and social upheaval that historically came with enemy occupation after losing a shooting war. That pretty much describes the result of an invasion after a shooting war, and he did it without firing a shot. This evil, corrupt mother. This breathe. This is why I drink coffee, so I don't go to jail for saying things that infuriate me online. Will Canada survive its 8+ years of Kamala Trudeau immigration policy, perhaps as a loosely affiliated economic zone? Can the U.S. survive 8 years of Kamala Trudeau immigration policy? Just look north. When Trudeau said if we didn't like his stuff, we would be replaced. We would be the first post-nation state. This graph shows it in stunning clarity, makes it absolutely undeniable. And the last bit of news, a little bit different. This is current news. This is a warning, folks. There will be a this is from Caryma Sad, lawyer and political satirist. This is not satire. There will be a black bloc protest outside Toronto Police Headquarters next Friday. The event was announced after Samadan was designated a terrorist entity by Public Safety Canada. It rarely announces rallies in advance, but this is a public safety announcement. My 2 cents, avoid the area if possible, especially with kids. Anyone in the vicinity should keep a camera rolling. So, interesting part of this. So, the Black Bloc group is a dangerous group. Those are the ones that bring the violence. The G20 riots that Bill Blair organized, that was the Black Bloc group that comes in. This is the heavy hitters for the far right or far left radical Marxist groups. They have destroyed streets in Hamilton, in on Toronto, and this group, the Samadan group, has actually issued a public statement saying, no, they didn't make a mistake. Death to Canada is on their action list. So, guys, heads on a swivel. I would absolutely avoid the police headquarters in downtown Toronto. That is, I'm assuming, this coming Friday. She posted this yesterday. I trust her as a source when it comes to making an announcement like this. Yeah, this is for the 25th, so I guess that would be next Friday. Sorry, excuse me, mistaken. A night's time protest, exactly what they love. Toronto Police Headquarters, and it's no mistake that they've used this graphic for this, because that's kind of what their proudest moment when they got Bill Blair promoted. So this is from their communications from Hong Kong to Atlanta. What is one thing we all have in common? We all know cops are fascist tools of the murderous state. So hashtag Toronto. So they're making sure that this gets around. What would happen if we threw a fuck the police party at police headquarters and no cops showed up? I don't think we need to worry about that, given their escalating bullshit over the past year. These MFers are out there doling out concussions like lollipops. So it's long past time we took the party to them. So they're actively calling for violence against the police next Friday. Mike available to tell them exactly what you think of their behavior. Attire block the fuck up. And another segment of that is F the colonizers, F the colonizers, F them, F the genociders, F the genociders, F them, F the occupiers, occupiers, F them, Canada, America, Israel, F them. White fragility. If I buy a flag, it's mine to burn. Maybe stop being genocidal pieces of. Yeah, this is the result of the Liberal government of Canada. So every last bit of garbage that we've covered, every last crime spree, organized crime event, the lies, basically every metric of suffering and abuse and crime and invasion and overthrowing our country, treason, this coup, thank a Liberal near you. And if we listen to what America's response to this is, don't think they see us as innocent, and this is only Trudeau. They understand Trudeau's, a wagging bag of excrement, but at the end of the day, this is a democracy, and it's still our responsibility and our duty to deal with this. And we are, make no mistake, going to pay the check for all of this. When it comes to, the block event, this guy's, I want to pull this chant up here again, because this is not the East Indians. This isn't even the Palestinians. This is Antifa. This is the Anti-Hate Network. This is the LGBT Alphabet Soup Brigade. This is the Pedo Brigade. This is the unions. This is the NGOs, nonprofits. This is George Soros. This is the Open Societies Foundation. This is Southern Poverty Law Center. This is all of them. Coming, the grand finale, if you ever watched The Lord of the Rings, this is Mordor coming out with their last gasp. This is the climate cult, the climate extremists, the Indian extremists, the college Marxist commie extremists. This is exactly the language that they use. They are the only ones that call us colonizers, genociders, occupiers. I mean, isn't that an American, a Canadian Indian problem, being occupiers and colonizers? Who are exactly do they represent? But this is straight up terrorism. And these guys are coming out in support of a terrorist organization. And Samidan is a bona fide, legitimized, recognized terrorist organization. So if the Khalistanis and the Palestinians and Antifa and the Indians and the Alphabet Soup and the unions all continue to build this violent rhetoric, this is dog whistles on full blast to come and harm police. This is the clown show of Canada right now, as we are living it real time. So wish there was better news than that. We started the show off with some good news. We went a little over 2 hours, including interruptions. But tomorrow will probably be more of the same. I don't know what kind of fancy headline I'll come up with. We'll see what inspires me tomorrow. But I'm sure we will. I know I've got a whole bunch of updates to some of this as well. Some of this was from yesterday. Having a guest on puts me a little bit behind, so we covered some of the stuff I would have covered yesterday. Tomorrow, we're caught up to all of that. Most of that. I've got some more to add to it tomorrow, including U.S. investigations. They did that in 2020 in the States, 100%. Justin Trudeau has wanted a J6 style event his whole life, and now he's kind of building it up, and all of the money that they have stolen to fund this is about to pay, show us to provide the show for us, right? The ones that are accusing us of being all of the horrible things that they themselves do, right? All right, guys, I love you guys all. Stay mighty, my friends, patriots, warriors, prisoners, hostages. Believe it or not, I actually think we got this. If we weren't winning, they wouldn't be so desperate. Trudeau wouldn't be in the mess that he's in. We've got a lot to be grateful for the people that have brought us this far. For me, that's in large part you guys. Without your sharing and support for everybody, this show wouldn't have made it 5.5, going on 6 years. There's all kinds of different ways to help me out to keep this going. Buy me a coffee is one way. You can find links to do that. If you've got something that's important, send me an email at contact@whatsupcanada.org. I do love whistleblowers. And support your local journalists, guys. Support the independents that aren't on the government dole, that aren't accepting the corrupt money, that aren't working for the corrupt corporations, whoever that might be, whether that's me or somebody else. Support those people. They are paying a hell of a price in this time and day and age, and this is the best way to help me keep this free for everybody else, because I will never charge anybody for the truth. I can't do that. I can't put my stuff behind a paywall. The last thing on earth I would ever be able to do would be, I couldn't live with myself if I heard that somebody lost their life because of information they could have had for free on this platform. So that is my personal mission as to why I will do everything that I can to make sure that this platform stays free for everybody all of the time. In part, we kind of do that with our partners over at New World Precious Metals and at Patriot Switch. So I'm going to leave you guys with a clip from there, and we will see you same time, same place tomorrow, hopefully with less interruptions. I can't promise that I won't be over the target again tomorrow and they will not try and hit us with something. I'm kind of almost disappointed if they don't. But thank you guys for all that you do, and stay strong. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow.